Hi, and welcome to Principles in Politics, where I will discuss what's happening in Idaho politics, conservatism, as well as the Idaho State Constitution and U.S. Constitution. During the legislative session, I hope to produce several shows a week through live streaming and recorded videos, keeping it short, sweet, and to the point to help keep you informed. Good evening and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tony Ulrich. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about taxes in the state of Idaho. I did a video a couple days ago and some of the comments were, well, can you show us the spreadsheet that you kept for that year on what you paid in taxes? And I had people, well, can you go in deeper into it? And I had a lot of friends that just were really interested, so I thought I'd do something on it. I'd like to start by saying there's no way I could show you that spreadsheet. I don't think I've seen it in 15, 20 years. I mean, it was a long time ago when I did that. I don't have the computer that it would be on anymore, and I'm pretty positive I don't have a printed copy of it. I've dug around, and it's just not going to happen. But, you know, I decided I'd give you a few examples and a quick breakdown of how it works. Before we get into this, I have a couple of quick disclaimers. I'm going to mention several groups and organizations tonight, and I'm not paid by them. I'm not affiliated with them. I just like what they're doing, or I believe in what they're doing, or they've just got good advice to give, and I want to make you aware of that. So I'm not pushing any group or any agenda other than just we the people. So if we're going to talk about taxes, you know, there's one group I'd really like to talk about that would, they do a lot on the federal level, basically, and what the federal government is allowed to tax you on, and that would be the John Birch Society. A good friend of mine, Tom Munns out of Boise, and another good friend, Robert Brown out of Montana, both very involved in JBS, and I really like a lot of what JBS has to say. I don't necessarily, again, always agree with them, but their training material and their educational material is simply wonderful. It's great for people who have no idea or no concept and want to learn. I've taught JBS's The Constitution as a Solution course several times. I teach a Hillsdale's Constitution 101 I teach several different classes, and then I teach some that are a mix for people that are at different levels. So it just really depends on what the group's into and what they want to do. And I'd be willing to come, you know, if you could get a few people together and teach these classes for you too. But it's a pain. It really is. It takes a lot of time. I should probably just do them in a video series and get it over with, and then you can just play them for your friends. But, you know, you need that interaction between your instructors and the people in the group. Doing it one-on-one is just kind of, it works, but it's not great. But JBS, in their Constitution as a Solution series, their first lecture is called The Dangers of Democracy. It's got a lot of great information, and it's eye-opening. It, you know, explains why we're not a democracy and why we're a republic and why people like to confuse the two. The second one is the important one when you want to start talking about taxes. Well, the second and the third ones. The second and third one, I'm sorry. The enumerated versus unlimited powers is the second lecture, and it's really great. It gets in and breaks down to what the enumerated powers of the federal government are and what they're allowed to tax for, basically. It's really great. The whole series is really good. I enjoy it. It's great for people that have absolutely no concept or idea, but it also refreshes a lot of people who are more knowledgeable. The third lecture is Constitutional Economics. That's another great one. It explains a lot about the economics of the federal government. The federal government's very limited in what they can tax on. It's basically excise tax is really its constitutional authority, but that changed with an amendment, and now, you know, they tax your income, and our founding fathers warned against that because it pretty much gave them a blank checkbook, and as we know, they pretty much treat it like they have a bottomless checkbook. Right about now, I think our great-great-grandkids are paying the debt that we're spending, but it might even be our great-great-great, but that's really hard to determine. I guess it'll really just depend on how much they continue to spend over the next 4 years and 5 years and 10 years, but the government's never going to spend less. They're always going to create more agencies and spend more. Another great group for Idaho is the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I spoke about them in another video. They're very big on state spending and responsible spending, and they've got their spending index that rates how our representatives and senators are voting based on taxing and spending, and they put out several things throughout the year about taxing that, and what they think the state needs to do and how they need to deal with it. And like I've said, I don't always agree with the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and for the last couple of years they've been on a drive to repeal the grocery tax. A lot of states that have sales tax don't tax groceries, and I don't think we need to repeal the grocery tax. It's my personal opinion. To me, it is the only tax in the state that is equally paid by everyone. And it's really, when I go through the stuff I'm going to go through here, you'll see it's really not equally paid. I mean, I don't benefit from the grocery tax, but a family of four might. It just really depends on how you twist the numbers. So, but everyone eats, so everyone pays the tax. The sin taxes, the fuel taxes, those are all paid by specific individuals, and those things are supposed to go for specific uses. Well, I don't see our road taxes going to actually fixing and maintaining our roads, because Idaho roads suck. The alcohol tax, what does that really go for? The tobacco tax, the sin taxes, they're taxing morality. I mean, according to the Idaho State Constitution, many legislators believe it's their duty to legislate morality, but that's not what the Constitution says. If they actually read the Constitution, it says they're supposed to set a moral example. It doesn't say legislate morality, it says set a moral example. But, everyone likes to interpret laws and rules the way they want to interpret them. So I tend to interpret them literally, take them word for word and break down what each word means and then put the sentence back together. So, on the grocery tax, I can see where they're saying that, we should repeal it and that it, really help the poor. But in all actuality, if you think about it, it really doesn't help the poor, because, I'm sorry, I'm trying to open and close a window over here so I can see things, and it's not working well for me. The Idaho State Tax Commission at tax.idaho.gov says the average person gets $100 tax credit. I'm not sure about that, because I believe mine's like $45 or $50. I'd have to go actually find my last taxes and look and see what it was. But I think what it is, they just look at how many people filed for it and how much they paid out and average it. A family of four, I don't believe they get $400. I believe they get somewhere around $160 or something. But let's go with that $100 they say. So, if you're getting a $100 tax credit, that means they're assuming you spent about $1,666 on groceries, and they're giving you that 6% back. So I know I spend more than that on groceries, but, I don't necessarily shop and plan my meals and do like we should. I'm on the go a lot. I'm busy, a farm and ranch mechanic, my involvement in politics, and I don't have time to cook like I used to. When I used to cook for a family of four, and I spent around $400 to $500 a month on groceries. But, I planned. I didn't buy box stuff. I actually cooked. I peeled potatoes. I had fresh produce. I cooked meat. I cooked meals. I enjoy cooking, actually. If you think about it, so for me, I would lose on that $100. The state would make money on me because they're only giving me $100 back, and I'm pretty sure I spend closer to $7,000 or $8,000 a year on groceries, I would guess. I haven't kept track of that in a long time, but like I said, I don't plan meals. I don't cook. It's like I get home from work, I'm sitting there looking around, and it's like, don't feel like a sandwich or a can of soup. I run to the store and I buy a steak, and I think, oh, do I have potatoes at home? I don't know. So I buy, more. I buy each meal as I go instead of planning, going, I'm going to want potatoes 4 times this week. I'm going to want. So, but that's my issue. If a family of 4 is doing this, that comes out to what, $6,660 some dollars a year that they're spending on groceries. That's possible. I mean, like I said, I used to feed a family of 4 on $400 to $500 a month. So that's $4,800 to $6,000. I'm trying to do math in my head and it's not working real well. To $6,000 a year. So a family of 4, if they watch what they're doing, budget, plan meals and everything, and they're not living out of boxed food and microwave stuff, that they can actually make money on the grocery tax incentive. But again, for me, the whole thing is, it's something we're all taxed on equally. I mean, the sales tax, a usage tax, is actually the fairest form of tax. So, you want to eliminate something that's going to help the poor people. Let's reduce the income tax a little bit, or there's a million and one things we can do, but I believe eliminating the grocery tax is not going to benefit them as much as people seem to think. That could just be my thinking, but it's debatable. That's just my personal opinion. Everybody else has their opinion. No one wants to pay any more taxes, so any tax we can repeal, in my opinion, is good, but why work at removing the one that everyone's paying? The other tax that really grinds me right now is the local option sales tax that many legislators and county and city governments are pushing for. And, they're saying, well, it's really going to benefit and reduce the tax burden on the people because anyone that comes in is now going to be helping to pay the bill. Well, yeah, not really. That works in places like Haley, Sun Valley, places that have a large tourist income and, a majority of their annual profit for the year comes from tourism. Yeah, they'll benefit from it. But what's that going to do for rural communities? You're going to take someplace like Elmore County, which is where I live, and suddenly be taxing people based on what the county feels it needs instead of what it should actually be functioning with, when they already collect plenty of taxes. They just need to stop spending stupidly. Or recklessly, I should say. It's stupidly, let's admit it. Local option sales tax, bad idea, no matter what you do. That's just going to allow more government corruption, more government taxation. You're going to end up paying 9% sales tax in Boise and Twin Falls and Haley, and you're going to end up paying 12 here and 14 there. And what it's going to do is it's going to drive businesses out of areas, and then those areas are going to go, oh, well, we're not getting the tax revenue, so we need to increase the tax rate. Government doesn't think logically. They think the solution to everything is tax more, spend more. That doesn't work. If you don't have the income from tax, you reduce the taxes, you draw the income in. Reaganomics was a beautiful plan. Cut spending and decrease taxes. Promotes people's spending. There's little towns in my area that, want to be little bed and breakfast places, and they don't seem to understand that you have to have the infrastructure to support that. You have to have the people to work the jobs that want to draw those people in. And then you have to have jobs for in the off season that are going to allow them to actually stay there and live. And when you start taxing them at different rates, they're going to leave. I don't understand government's thinking. But let's get back to, some of the different taxes that we're taxed on. And someone was really curious because they go, well, how are we taxed on a tax? And there's a lot of instances of that in the state of Idaho because we have a sales tax. And then we also have things that are called, they're a form of an excise tax, so like the tobacco tax. That's a prime example. You pay a 57-cent per pack of cigarettes for 20 cigarettes on tax on that. And then on top of that, you pay a 6% sales tax. So you're paying 6% of that 57 cents. That's not a lot. It's 3.5 cents, something like that. It comes out to around, doing the math in my head, 12, 13 bucks a year, something like that. So, I mean, it's not a huge amount, but here's the thing. If they're already getting that 6% tax, why are they taxing the tax on top of it? You know, they tax you 57 cents a pack, and then they charge a sales tax on top of it. And their excuse for this is well, it's not the end user is not paying that 57 cents a pack. It's being paid by the distributors and the importers. Well, let me tell you something. Businesses don't pay taxes. They pay them, but they pass that cost right directly on to the consumer and the end user. Don't think that contractor that. Well, contracting is a little different because all the labor or all the materials they charge you for, you pay the sales tax to the city when you pay for your building permit and stuff. It's a whole different thing. But, you know, any service that is taxing you, they're not paying that tax. You're paying it. It's just included in your fees. So, you know, if that 57 cents a pack tax wasn't on my cigarettes, I wouldn't be paying $7 a pack. I'm not even sure what I pay a pack. I smoke about a pack a day. Some days less, some days more, but you know, I'd say over the year it averages out to a pack a day. When I'm working and during harvest, I don't think I smoke a pack every 3 days, but so averaging, you know, 365 packs a year, 57 cents, that's, you know, another $150 or so in taxes. But what does that tax actually go for? Well, it goes so the government can run an agency that tells you how much they're going to tax you. I mean, it's government paying for government, and fine and dandy. Do we really need a tobacco commission? Do we really need, I mean, what do they do that justifies their existence? Oh, they create tax and collect tax. It's kind of interesting, you know. Another point where government's thinking isn't logical, because the distributor might be paying that 57 cents right up front, but trust me, he doesn't go, oh, I'm just going to eat that 57 cents a pack and keep my price the same. And that tax goes up, the price of your cigarettes go up, price of everything goes up. And then, you know, the higher that price goes, the more the government makes on the end when they do charge you that 6%. So, alcohol tax, you know, that's another great one. They tell you right up front that you pay 45 cents, I think it is, a gallon on wine, which would be what, like five and a half average 750 milliliter bottles of wine. And I think you pay 15 or 16 cents on a gallon of beer, which is what, about 11, 12 ounce bottles, 11 and a half, something like that. 128 ounces to a gallon, 10, yeah, a little over 11 bottles, not much, but you know, and then they charge you a 6% sales tax on top of that. So paying tax on tax. You know, it's not a lot of money, but it really adds up. I mean, and it depends on how much you use and how much it's sold. You know, Idaho sells a lot of beer and wine. I mean, drinking seems to be a really grand hobby in this state. I mean, I thought we drank a lot in Oregon. We really drink a lot here. They say that there's no tax on liquor other than the 6% sales tax because it's state controlled and the state makes its money on the sales. But I don't think that's true. I'm going to check with some people I know tomorrow or the next day, and because not every store is a state-controlled liquor store. When you get into rural areas, they have little grocery stores and little convenience stores that sell liquor. And, you know, they each have these little yellow tags on them with a state tax number on them, or taxing, I don't know if exactly, it could just be an ID number. But, you know, they get pretty weird, nervous, and thirsty when that number's not on those bottles. And I do believe it's because they're charged based on how much they sell, which is, yet again, a tax. Fuel. We don't pay a sales tax on fuel, but there's other fees and things we pay on top of it. You know, we pay, it's like 32 cents a gallon, I think, for gas and diesel. It's something like 21 or 23 cents for propane. And I think it's like, and that's a gallon. Propane's actually sold by the pound, so about 4.5 pounds or something like that's a gallon. I don't remember the ratio, but I'm just guessing. You know, and that's not really a whole heck of a lot. if the money actually went for what it was supposed to go for, but it never does. I mean, if you stop and think about it, if you fill your car up once a week and you got an 18-gallon tank, you know, you're paying about $309 a gallon in taxes, you know, in fuel tax, you know. And then there's property tax. I mean, but that's going to be a whole nother video. I mean, we can go into the ills of the property tax and how it's abused and misused by government. But yeah, that's going to be for a video all on its own. But I mean, really, if you think about all the different things you're taxed on, I mean, I just listed a few right there off the top of my head. Well, okay, let's talk federal excise tax. Like tires. If you buy tires, you know, the state of Idaho says right on their tax webpage that if there's a federal excise tax on something like tires, and they've got a whole list of things, that tax is supposed to be removed from the end price before a sales tax is applied. That never happens. I mean, I think if I can go out and look, but I think the last set of my tires, I was taxed on the final amount. And they actually list on there the price of the tire and then the excise tax, and then there's disposal fees, which, by the way, those disposal fees are mandated by the government, which means those are also a tax. Anything the government mandates you pay is a tax. There's no other way of saying it. I mean, they are taxing you. They are charging you for the privilege of allowing you to do something. Yeah, that's pretty much the best way I can think to describe a tax. It's the government charging you for the privilege of allowing you to do something you would normally do. You know, I mean, you're taxed on everything today. I mean, that I don't remember the poem, but you know, taxes bed, taxes meal, taxes tax him until he squeals, and then tax him some more. You know, it's really amazing when you think about it. So, just some of the basic taxes off the top of my head. Let's since we're talking tires and gasoline, let's talk about vehicles. That's another good one. The sales tax on vehicles. You buy a vehicle and you have it for a year and you sell it to a friend. Well, let's say you bought that vehicle for $10,000. You paid $600 tax on it. Then you turn around and sell it to your friend for $5,000. He'll pay $300 tax on it. The item's already been taxed once. Why is it being taxed again? Another bad thing about it, in Idaho, it's not a sales tax. It's a usage or service tax is what they call it, I believe. So if you rent something, you're just borrowing it basically and paying someone for it. The privilege of using it or the maintenance and upkeep. You're taxed on that. You stay in a hotel, you're taxed on that. Yeah, it's tax, fees. Fees are taxes, so we can get a hunting license, fishing license, trapping license, driver's license, ID cards. We pay the government in all of our other taxes to provide us these services, and then they tax us so they say they can maintain the system. Well, if you're requiring something that requires more tax, then obviously your agency's grown out of control. But I mean, taxes are a necessary evil, and our founding fathers warned us on giving government the ability to overtax us. I mean, they really started a war over a 3% tax. I mean, there were other things involved in there, but the Crown wanted to throw another 3 cents on tea, and they said, hell no, we're done. You're not taxing us anymore. And it's getting to that point where, we pay between state, federal, FICA, Medicare, Medicaid, all these things we pay on our income, just on our income alone. I mean, they're taking minimum of a third. If you're making minimum wage, I think they're taking right at a third of your wages in taxes, unless you have a whole bunch of deductions you claim right up front. And then you get a little bit back to make you happy at the end of the year. But, there's really, and if you're self-employed, man, the taxes really start piling up. You pay yourself in dividends as much as you possibly can to avoid taxes, but you're still paying way too much in taxes. I mean, I keep saying Idaho doesn't have a taxing problem. It's taxes plenty. It has a spending problem because it spends more than it taxes for. And that's not necessarily at the state level. The state does pretty good with, their balanced budget and, no surplus and blah, 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 blah. But your counties, every one of them are going to scream, and your cities, we don't have enough money, let's tax more. That's why they want that local option sales tax now. So, really, there's absolutely nothing. If you really think about it, if you think about your life, there's very little in your life that you do that isn't taxed by the government. And if you come up with something that the government isn't taxing you for, keep your damn mouth shut, because they'll find a way to tax you for it. I mean, you're taxed for clean air, you're taxed for clean water, you're taxed for energy, you're taxed for travel, you're taxed for living. You own your home, you're taxed for it. You don't own your home, you're taxed for that. It's tax. And, at some point, the government doesn't see it coming, but they're going to break the backs of enough people that we're just going to say, screw you. I mean, I'm really kind of interested, like I said in one of my last videos, the government claimed that he saved and sent back to the taxpayers $150 million or something. Well, we got 1,800,000 roughly in the state of Idaho, so, I think that should get actually kicked back to us. I'd like to see a refund. I'd really like to see a refund from all my school levies and on my property taxes that pay for education, because for the last year, our school system hasn't actually really been functioning. I mean, that's again another thing, but if you can come up with something that you're not taxed on, leave a comment below, and I'll show you where you're probably taxed on it, or I'll find a way to, because I could list taxes that we're taxed on all day long. There's literally nothing you're not taxed on. I'm really trying to think. I can't think of anything that you're not taxed on. Clean air, clean water, so you're taxed on breathing and drinking. There's grocery tax, you're taxed on that. If you're a hunter and a fisher, you're taxed on providing food that way. Let's see, if you're a gardener and you grow your own vegetables and stuff, you're taxed on that because, you're paying sales tax on your seed or your fertilizer, or taxing on the services that are, your water or there's a farm exemption, but if you're just a small gardener and gardening at home, you don't get that tax exemption. So, any of your pipe and stuff you actually pay for, you have to pay sales tax on that. Repairs, farm equipment, fuel tax. Farm fuel's not taxed, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to figure out a way to do that. Well, actually, in my case, farm fuel is, because my tractors are gas powered, and there's no farm exemption on gasoline. It's only on diesel. So, even if I have 500-600 gallons delivered to the house, I still pay highway tax on that, even though my tractors never leave my property, and they run on gas. So, really, I'm racking my head trying to think of something that we're not taxed on, and I just cannot find it. So if you can come up with it, leave me a comment at the bottom, because I'd like to research it, and I'll bet you I can find a way that you're taxed on it. So we're coming up on 30 minutes on this video, and I didn't want to do it that long, so I'm going to cut this out right about now, and we'll do more on taxes here shortly. And I hope I kind of answered some of the questions in the last comment and for my friends. But, check out JBS. You can find their videos for The Constitution is a Solution online, actually, here on YouTube. Search Google, or search The Constitution is a Solution. Heritage does Constitution 101. There's all sorts of great information out there. So, with a little bit of looking, you can find it. And I'll think about maybe doing some of the courses that I do that are a mix of all the courses. Think about maybe doing some of those on videos too. So anyway, have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you soon. If you like the show, remember to hit that like and subscribe button so you can be informed of new content as I produce it.